Okay, hello, health coaches. Thank you so much for participating in the Health Coach Power Community Q&A today. I am Michelle Fennickhouse. Now, if you're just starting your business, or even if you've been a health coach for a while, I want to know, how do you feel about your website? Is it working for you? We get a lot of questions about this, so today I wanted to address this topic about website creation and hosting. More specifically, what platform to get started on in the beginning. And I'm going to be answering lots of other questions as well. So if you're here with me live as we are streaming onto our Facebook group, go ahead and put your questions and comments right into the chat area, and I'll get to those hopefully as they come in or in just a few moments. Now, before we dig in, this episode is brought to you. Doesn't that sound official? This episode is brought to you by Healthy Profit University. That's my Done With You online course that helps health coaches earn a full-time salary. So to learn more, you can go to the link inside the Facebook feed. If you're there with us, just click on that link in the description, or if you're listening, you can go to findyourbalancehealth.com/earn and sign up for my free training. Alrighty, so let's talk about websites. Are you guys ready? I can't tell you how many questions come in about this. Like maybe every week someone is asking, what platform should I be using? I need some input about Wix, and I need input about Squarespace and blah, blah, blah. So this week it was Meredith who says, I am really at the beginning, and I would appreciate anyone's suggestions for website creation and hosting. I don't know where to start. So Meredith, I have sort of an easy answer for you, but I also have the more complicated truth to share with you. So let's start with the easy answer. I recommend WordPress for pretty much everybody. WordPress is not the most user-friendly platform. However, it is the industry standard. So what I'm trying to say is, with a WordPress website, you can do anything. Your business can grow, your business can change, you can add a storefront, or you can add this or that fancy feature later on. And WordPress can do everything. So that's a really good reason to start. You know, what's that saying? Start how you intend to continue. Begin how you intend to proceed, something like that. Starting with WordPress will set you up to never have to change platforms. So that is my suggestion to you. Now, WordPress is a little bit tricky to get started with. So you might want to take out that book from the library that's like WordPress for Dummies. And there's lots of tutorials online just in terms of knowing how to post your own blog posts and how to format them and use the dashboard that you're given. But before you even get there, there is a difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. And this is where it starts to get a little bit nerdy. So just hang in there and I'll do my best to explain this. WordPress is a platform. It is just a platform that websites can exist on. There are different ways for you to use WordPress. One way is to allow WordPress to kind of do all the work for you. They host your site, you just sign up and pay them, and boom, there you go. So if you want to do that, you go to WordPress.com and you can get a free WordPress site that way. And I think if I were starting out today, that's exactly what I would do. Because once you're on a WordPress platform, you can always change what theme you're using, make it look differently, add features, remove features. But then when you're ready to move on to option number 2, which I'm about to explain, it will be pretty easy for you to move your WordPress.com site to a WordPress.org site. And WordPress.org is for developers. That's where developers go to super nerd out on this stuff. And if you host your own website, you pay for your own hosting like I do, then you own it. If you have a free website with WordPress.com, they own your website. And that could be fine in the beginning. Run with that for a couple months, run with it for a couple years, as long as it serves you. But at a certain point, if you want to own your property as a business owner, it's almost like it's like your building or your office space or something. At a certain point, you'd want to own it. Then you would host your own site. You would hire somebody most likely to help you do that. So you would be paying hosting service to run your WordPress site. So that's a long way of saying, I think you should start on WordPress.com with a free site because it's free and you'll be set up for life. That's my short answer. The other thing that I want to say about that, Meredith, is that it does depend on what you're comfortable with. And I don't know if you are, 25 years old and on Tinder every day, or if you're like 60 years old and you've never had a website before. So I'll just put out there for everybody that there are other good options, such as Squarespace or Wix.com, that are, I think, more user-friendly to get started with. So choose according to your tech savviness level. But the downside to using some of those softwares or those programs, like say Wix, is that you'll want to do something one day. Like somebody was asking recently about a recipe plugin. I think it was Mary. And Mary, I'm sorry, I don't think I answered you inside the Facebook group, but there are WordPress plugins for recipes that make it really easy to make your recipe from your blog, like printer friendly and blah, blah, blah. But those don't exist for like Wix. It's like WordPress is the industry standard. So when people come up with plugins, it's almost like an app for your phone. Like if you're using an iPhone, then everybody makes iPhone apps. If you're using some Joe Schmo phone, you might not be able to get those apps. Everything works with WordPress. So that's what I mean by you can do anything. So I think that's all I had to say about that. Good luck, Meredith, and just pick something and run with it. Ultimately, your website is not the most important thing for you to be focusing on. If anyone who has been listening to these Q&As long enough has heard me say that before. All right, we're going to move on. If you guys have any questions or topics that you'd like me to address today, go ahead and put those in the comment area. I'm watching. But I have another one right here, and it comes from Liz. She says, I have a new client who is working on losing a lot of weight, like around 100 pounds. One of her major concerns is that when you lose a lot of weight, you have a lot of extra skin in the end. Any advice? So, Liz, I saw that you asked this question and you got some great advice about, when people lose weight slowly, they're less likely to get that sagging skin problem, et cetera. There's ways to mitigate this problem. But what I wanted to say is that I think you have to have a conversation with your client, because you said you were worried about her kind of self-sabotaging because she doesn't want to end up with the saggy skin problem. So here's my question for your client. Does she want to lose weight? She's 100 pounds overweight. Is her reason for losing weight that she wants to look like a supermodel? Or is it aesthetic? Or is it because she's worried about high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome? Because if it's that, at 100 pounds overweight, those become real issues with dire consequences. And if that's the reason that she wants to lose weight, I would say saggy skin is a small price to pay. And I don't know how you would word that with her exactly. I think more likely you would want her to come to that conclusion on her own, but I would kind of lead her down that path of what is your motivation for losing this weight? What do you want to achieve? What will success look like for you? And remind her that when her triglycerides go down and her waist circumference goes down and all of those risk factors disappear for her, some sagging skin is kind of the least of it. Wouldn't you agree? Anyway, conversation I think worth having. All righty. Here is a question from Darcy. Darcy says, I want to send a survey to my email list to help me figure out what my audience wants and needs. Just wondering if there are some great key questions that I should include. So Darcy, yes, actually there is a book called Ask, and it is by Ryan Levesque, I think is how you say the last name. And it is an entire book about surveying your audience. So you might be interested in picking that up. It goes maybe a little more in depth than you're really looking for right now. But after reading that book and kind of doing a lot of research through the years on this topic, I just wanted to share with you some things that I've picked up around asking questions of your audience, because you think it's going to be really easy, right? Oh, I'm going to ask them what problems they have and what they'd like to be doing differently in their diet and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to get all this great information. But I find that what actually happens is that people answer questions the way that they think they're supposed to, or the way they think you want them to answer the questions. And it's actually harder than you think to get honest to goodness feedback, that's really useful. So one tip is to never ask people what they want. Like if you said, what type of health coaching program would you like me to offer? Would you like me to offer weight loss? Would you like me to offer, meal planning? Tell me about that. You'll get some answers. It probably be all the things that you expect people to say, because it's almost like a script we have in our heads of like, here's what I should want. It's kind of frustrating. So the way to get around that and to get some really juicy, useful information from your audience is to ask them to complain. Because as you know, everybody loves to piss and moan. So if you turn the question around and you say something like, what's the worst thing you've ever experienced with your health? Or what is something about your health or your well-being, your body, or whatever it is that you talk to your clients about that you never want to experience again? And then give them like a big old paragraph field to fill in and tell you all about it. Because when people kind of get going on what they hate or what they have experienced that they never want to experience again, that's when you're going to be getting all kinds of good tidbits, and they're going to go on tangents and tell you about things that you haven't even asked about, but that will be really helpful for you to know, and not just get that script of, I'd like a program that helps me lose weight in a sustainable, long-lasting way, or whatever, like that everybody's just going to say. So that's one tip for you. The other thing that I've learned when it comes to offering surveys is that, people are strapped for time. And if they see a survey that's like 20 questions long, this whole complicated survey, chances are they're just going to be like, no, thank you, and click out of that really quickly. So what you can do is you can separate your surveys into pages. No, hold on. First of all, the thing you can do is make the first question the most important. So if someone's only going to answer one question of your survey, make it, that's going to be the first one. So make it count, because after that, they might drop off and you'll still be collecting that data if all they choose to do is answer that first question. So be very particular about what the first question is. Don't make it like name, age, blah, blah, blah. Don't waste their time with that. Like, get straight to the heart of the matter. And then what I was going to say is, using a tool like SurveyMonkey and probably others, you can create pages for your survey. So that way it doesn't look like 20 questions all on one big page, and you can break it up. So on the first page, just have that one question, and then they're going to hit next or whatever the button says, and then go to a page that maybe has 2 or 3 more questions. And I would really recommend keeping the survey short, but anyway, the point is that what you want to collect that first bit. So make them enter that first answer, and then they go on to the next one. If they want to continue, then they will, and they'll submit the whole reply. But the point is to not overwhelm them and make them feel like, oh, forget it, I'm not answering any of these questions. This is too long. So it's a little bit about formatting. That's all I've got for you today, Darcy. I hope that helps. Good luck with your surveying. All righty here. What other questions do you have for me today? I have one here from Abby. Abby says, I want to reach out to a local studio, and I'm assuming she means yoga studio, but who knows, a local studio, about partnering with them as their health coach. Any advice on how to go about doing so? How can our relationship be mutually beneficial? So the word that you're using of partnering, Abby, is interesting. And I just want to take a moment and talk about that, because one way to partner and sort of be their health coach would be that you actually work for them, or that your business and their business are like intimately connected like this. And in some ways that sounds really nice, right? Like I could think of yoga studios where it would have just been like amazing if they had treated me like part of their staff, or maybe I even was part of their staff and they did all the marketing for me. And, I was just part and parcel to their whole community. And how amazing would that be? But I do want to let you know that I have spoken with so many health coaches through the years. And I remember one in particular who told me that she'd been practicing as a health coach very successfully for 5 years, 6 years. And the yoga studio that she, quote, partnered with had just closed. And now she had no clients. Not only did she have no clients, but she didn't even have a mailing list because, hey, the yoga studio was doing all of that for her. And they were just sending people to her. So she was filling up her days meeting with the yoga students. And it was like great until the yoga studio closed. Yoga studios close all the time. So my point is, think very hard about what kind of partnership you want to create and how much you want to align yourself with a business that is not your own, a business that could up and move or close or change or whatever at any given moment. And with that in mind, now, of course, there is a gray area. Maybe you don't work for them. Maybe you do have your own mailing list, but maybe you run regular workshops with them, or you teach a regular class. There's like that whole gray area in between. But I just want to say that the more you intertwine yourself with another business, the more dependent you are on them. And they might, you have no control over it. They might do a great job promoting you. They might do a horrible job. They might do a great job this month, and next month they do a horrible job. Or I've had yoga studios where I did a workshop and never got paid. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Hi, you guys still owe me $800. Thanks. Leave a check at the desk. I'll pick it up next week. Hi, you guys still owe me $800. It's you got to chase it down sometimes. That stinks too. So that's another example of when you and a yoga studio or any other business kind of get in bed together, problems can arise, right? So what I wanted to suggest to you is that you want to keep it kind of as separate as possible, in my opinion, so that you are not putting yourself in a vulnerable position of not being paid or having all of your clients yanked out from underneath you. And what I suggest, I think it just works in the long run. It works to your benefit to just get in there, do a free workshop, do a couple free workshops. Maybe over the course of the year, you're doing one every other month or something like that. And maybe it's not a free workshop. Maybe it's a paid workshop, but not something that you have to pay the rent with. Refer back to my previous unpaid story. And the goal of these workshops will be to put all of the attendees' names onto your own personal mailing list. From there, you'll be able to market to them with all of your services and anything else that you're doing with your business. So in that way, you're just intersecting with the yoga studio for a hot minute to get in front of their clientele. And then from there on out, those people are yours, and you proceed to market to them accordingly. To me, that is the way to get the most benefit with the least risk involved. And then, of course, you can take those workshops. If you're running, say you have 2 different workshops, or even 1, and you hold it a couple times a year at that studio. You could do the same thing at a gym. You could do the same thing at another yoga studio. You could shop it all around town and get a lot more bang for your energetic buck that way. All right, so that's all I have to say about that. I don't do a lot of live workshops anymore, but I have done a lot of them through the years, and it is remarkable how much you can be let down by, and I'm not saying this to I'm saying this to empower you, not to be a downer, but it's remarkable how much other people may not meet your expectations for promotion or for paying you. Okay, so Abby, I hope that was helpful. Let's see here. Any other questions for me today, kiddies? I've got one from Heather. And if you're on the Facebook live stream right now, go ahead and put your questions into the comment area. Heather is asking, I have a potential client that has, and I'm probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, membranous nephritis, pre-diabetic, and proteinuria. He's on steroids and undergoing chemo. I'm nervous this is a lot to take on, but maybe there's something I do to help him get off a few meds that he's on through proper nutrition. What do y'all think about that one? Heather, I noticed that you posted this to the Facebook group and like nobody answered you. So that's why I wanted to answer you. But I think there's a reason no one answered you, because I think everyone was just kind of like, oh boy, oh boy. So what do I have to say about this one? It is perhaps out of scope for a health coach to be working with someone who has severe health issues, undergoing chemotherapy, not someone who's pre-diabetic, but sort of this combination, this constellation of issues that your client is dealing with. I think you have to be very careful that you are not going out of scope on this. For instance, I don't even know what some of these words are. I don't know if you do, but I'm guessing you don't know a whole lot about them based on just what a standard health coach gets trained in. So this is tricky territory. I would have to have a very honest conversation with him about what you can and can't help him with. I would want to definitely get in touch with, if he's seeing, or through perhaps his doctor or a hospital, if there is a nutritionist working on his case, I would definitely want to be in touch with that person, or definitely see any notes that the client is getting from that person, so that you aren't doing something like helping him get more meat in his diet because that makes sense for whatever reason on your end, whereas the nutritionist is saying, no meat, vegetarian diet. I don't know. So this is tricky, and you're gonna have to definitely forge a relationship with the other healthcare providers. That being said, I think that it's a huge opportunity, because when someone has a lot of awful health issues going on, they're much more likely to be motivated to make changes. So you have that on your side. And yeah, like this person probably is going to take it seriously. So one thing I would do to keep my distance from making any mistakes with a client like this is to have him make all of the decisions. Be very careful that you're not making quote recommendations that could be taken as like you're prescribing something. I'd be very careful to keep it in terms of, what do you know you need to do to improve your health? Or what is one thing you want to work on? And help that man do what he already knows he has to do. And he'll say, well, my doctor told me this. Great. This is, sometimes I will step in and say, well, there's some controversy around that, issue. When people say what their doctor told them, I'll try to point out other points of view. But in a case of somebody who's already going through so much, I would just be very careful and defer to their judgment and their doctor's judgment, and be very transparent about that with the client, about where your boundaries are and what you can and can't do as a health coach. I would love to hear anybody else's comments on that, by the way, because I just thought that was a really interesting question. And it's not something that comes up terribly often with health coaches, but we need to be aware of it. Okay, let's see here. Sharon is saying, I want to include the URL to my Facebook page in an email, but I want to make sure it is correct. What I see has an S at the end of HTTP, and I wanted to make sure that's not because I'm signed into Facebook. Well, girlfriend, just sign out of Facebook and try it. You don't have to worry about that. When you see HTTPS, that just means that it's a secured, I forget what it's called, a secured website or something. I have to pay like an extra $80 a year to have an S at the end of my HTTP. And it means something to somebody. I don't know. It's nerdy. But in short, you can leave it there and the link will work. But if you're ever confused about something like that, just log out or go onto another computer and try from there where you're not logged in, and just troubleshoot. I have my own Q&A lab over here. You know, I got like two laptops, an iPad, a phone. So whenever I got to test something, I have a different device to test it with. Don't you love being an entrepreneur? And then Sharon was also asking, because I am using a microphone that I don't usually use for these things, because I was hoping it would improve the sound quality. And she said, do you prefer that setup over the earbud? So I'm using this microphone. This is the same microphone. It's a Audio Technica that I use for recording podcasts and Healthy View Radio every Thursday. So this is like my good microphone, and it doesn't plug into my phone. It's a USB connection. So I have to plug it into the computer. So since I had to plug it into the computer, whatever, I had to change the way I was doing this. But I do prefer it to the earbuds because the voice quality is much better. And you can plug, I'm not doing it right now, but you can plug in earbuds so that you can also hear at the same time if I was talking to people right now. So that's something to look into if you're going to be doing Facebook Lives or doing a podcast or anything where you really care about the audio quality. And on that note, when I launch my cooking classes next month, I'm going to be doing Facebook Lives, but obviously while I'm cooking, I can't be tethered to the computer like this. So I'll be, walking around the kitchen, going to the oven, going to the refrigerator. So I'm looking into getting a wireless lavalier microphone that will connect to my iPhone. Haven't bought it yet. Wish me luck with that. Alrighty, so I have time for maybe another question or two. And I have one here from Sophie. And Sophie is saying, I'm getting set up on social media. I'm curious if anyone has any advice on whether it's better to do a business Facebook page, which I think is a fan page, versus a personal. My friend who has been doing well for himself in the virtual physical trainer platform is recommending connecting to my personal page to utilize the network I already have. Well, that makes a lot of sense, Sophie. You don't want to overlook the audience that you already have. And in the beginning, that's really all you have, right? Your friends, your family, your acquaintances. So don't overlook the power of your own Facebook page. I definitely still use mine. And I actually have a blog post, and I will put it into the links under this video later, a blog post, or if you search my website for like Facebook wellness professional, something like that, it will come up that talks about what you need on Facebook. So how to use your personal page, how to use a fan page. For example, you can't have a fan page if you don't have a personal page. So you have to have both. And then how to use the cover image area, how to make the best use of those pages so that people can find you. I can't tell you how many times I go to someone's page, like a personal page. I'm trying to learn about them. Like, I want this information from them. And I go to where it tells you what their job is, and it'll just be like, health coach at Healthy Me. And I'm like, okay. And it's not something you can click on, or you click on that word and it just goes to like a sort of a blank Facebook page. It doesn't actually take you to their fan page. And it's like, it's such a missed opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, here I am searching for information. So anyway, I call all of those things out in the article, and there's a download that goes with the article. So I definitely want you to check that out, and anybody else who's wondering this as well. But just to give you an overview of how I use Facebook, my fan page, all of our fan pages are getting like practically zero reach anymore. So if you post something to your fan page, it's not reaching your fans very well. You're going to reach like a very small percentage of them. And that's just been going down through the years. But it is a place to direct people to learn more about you. It is something that people do. They go on Facebook and they'll search for you if they want to kind of check you out and see how legit you are. And if you don't have a Facebook fan page, or if the last thing you posted was from 2011, they're going to think, is this like a legit business? So I do think it's worth having and maintaining a page. If you ever want to run ads, you have to have a fan page in order to do that. So that's another reason. So I just think you need both. And you have to realize that when you are putting content out there, it's not going to reach that many people, so don't rely on it. Don't be like, oh, how come no one's signing up for my workshop? I put it on Facebook twice. That's not really what it's there for. It's sort of like an online business card where people just go to check you out. And then you can use your personal page to promote yourself or whatever, but keep in mind your friends and family don't want to hear about your health coaching business every day, 3 times a day. So I try to limit it to once or twice a week or whatever makes sense so that I'm not alienating people that way. Anyway, I will post a link to that article over here on Facebook, or if you want to search my website, again, just search Find Your Balance Health for Facebook Wellness Professional, and you'll find that blog post. All right, you guys, it is 3:30. This has been fun. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we will be back next week. So keep asking great questions.